The LPGA and WNBA rarely cross paths in sports headlines, but when they did recently, the fallout was unexpected, and the details were gripping. A quiet controversy bubbled into public view when LPGA players dropped a shocking allegation about the WNBA's treatment of collegiate basketball star Caitlin Clark. Clark, known for her sharp shooting skills and fierce competitiveness, has long been the kind of athlete who can shift conversations and fill stadiums. Yet, according to LPGA insiders, her treatment by some figures within the WNBA has been less about admiration and more about subtle intimidation. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. The story begins with Clark's growing fame, a phenomenon that has transcended basketball. Fans adore her for her fearless three-point shooting and on-court swagger. Opponents respect, albeit grudgingly, her knack for stepping up when it matters most. But Clark's rise hasn't come without friction. She became a lightning rod for controversy after her collegiate performances drew comparisons to established WNBA stars, some of whom seemed less than thrilled by the hype around a player not yet in the ranks. The murmurs started quietly. Whispers among LPGA players hinted that Clark had faced overt bullying from certain corners of the WNBA. It wasn't playground-level name-calling, but a more insidious type of undermining. There were reports of dismissive comments during off-season charity events and subtle attempts to diminish her achievements. What was most surprising wasn't that there was tension. Professional sports are rife with competition, but that it spilled across leagues, bringing golf into the fray. The LPGA's involvement was sparked by Clark's connection to several players who admired her competitive spirit. Golf, often perceived as a quiet and genteel sport, has its fair share of strong personalities. Some of its athletes, brilliant but under-recognized women competing on the international stage, felt a kinship with Clark. Her story resonated with them, and they were unafraid to speak up when they heard murmurs of mistreatment. These players began amplifying Clark's story, expressing concern about the apparent disconnect between the WNBA's public praise of her talent and what some claimed was an undercurrent of resentment behind closed doors. The accusations weren't just about jealousy or competitiveness. They painted a picture of a sports culture resistant to newcomers disrupting the established hierarchy. For decades, the WNBA has fought to build its reputation in a world where men's basketball dominates. Its players have fought tooth and nail for respect and visibility, and some saw Clark's media hype as a threat to their hard-earned spotlight. It was less about Clark as a person and more about what she represented, a player who could dominate headlines before she even donned a professional jersey. The LPGA's players didn't mince words. They highlighted the irony of one league allegedly tearing down an athlete who symbolized everything the WNBA had fought for: talent, grit, and marketability. The golfing community, often seen as a more insular circle, found itself in a rare position of advocacy. Their willingness to stand behind Clark wasn't just about defending her. It was about addressing the broader culture of competition among women's sports. Why, they asked, were women tearing each other down when they faced enough external challenges in gaining respect and equal footing? The story took on a life of its own, becoming a topic of debate across sports circles. Was the WNBA's treatment of Clark indicative of a larger issue in professional sports? Some argued it was just the natural friction of competition, the kind of hazing that many rookies face in high-stakes environments. Others, however, saw it as part of a systemic problem, where women in sports are often set against each other rather than celebrated for lifting each other up. Clark herself remained largely silent during the initial uproar, which only added to the intrigue. Her focus on the court never wavered, and her trademark smirks and subtle trash-talking fueled highlight reels as if nothing was amiss. Yet, her silence spoke volumes. It was clear she wasn't one to seek pity or dwell on perceived slights, but her refusal to engage publicly left space for others to shape the narrative. Some observers couldn't help but find humor in the situation. The LPGA, known for its calm demeanor, suddenly found itself at the center of a controversy involving basketball. It was as if the quiet kid in the back of the class had stood up and called out the school bully. The contrast between the sports couldn't have been starker. Golf, where players politely applaud each other's shots, and basketball, where elbows fly and trash talk reigns supreme. The LPGA players' decision to step into the fray was both unexpected and oddly endearing. Beyond the humor, though, was a sobering reality. The public airing of grievances laid bare how far women's sports still have to go in creating a united front. While male athletes often compete fiercely but unite when it comes to growing their sports brand, the story suggested that women's leagues were sometimes their own worst enemies. The WNBA's alleged treatment of Clark became a symbol of what happens when rivalries overshadow a shared mission. The implications extended beyond sports. The controversy raised questions about how women in all fields navigate success and competition. Was the WNBA's behavior a reflection of society at large, where women are often pitted against each other for limited opportunities? Or is it simply a case of egos clashing in a high-stakes environment? Whatever the answer, the situation highlighted the need for introspection, not just within the WNBA, but across all professional women's leagues. Meanwhile, the LPGA's involvement brought unexpected attention to golf. Fans and commentators began paying more attention to the personalities behind the sport. Some even joked that LPGA players had taken a page from Clark's book, showing that they too could bring drama and fire to their game. The controversy became a reminder that even sports, often dismissed as quiet or subdued, could have their moments of intensity. As the story unfolded, one thing became clear. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a basketball star. She had become a cultural figure whose influence extended beyond the court. The way her story intersected with the LPGA and WNBA highlighted the interconnectedness of women's sports and the challenges they collectively face. Whether she intended to or not, Clark had sparked a conversation that went far beyond jump shots and birdie putts. The saga also revealed the power of athletes to influence narratives. The LPGA players who stood up for Clark demonstrated that sports stars have a voice beyond their respective games. By amplifying her story, they brought attention not just to her talent, but to the dynamics of women's sports as a whole. Their willingness to speak out suggested that even in competitive environments, solidarity was possible and necessary. In the end, the LPGA's Bombshell wasn't just about the WNBA or Caitlin Clark. It was about the broader issues of respect, competition, and collaboration in women's sports. It showed how one athlete's story could transcend leagues and spark a wider conversation. And it reminded everyone watching that behind every rivalry, there's an opportunity to reflect on what really matters. For now, Caitlin Clark continues to let her game do the talking. The WNBA remains a complex, ambitious league striving for relevance and respect. And the LPGA, having stepped into the spotlight in an unexpected way, proved that even a quiet sport can pack a punch when it matters most. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.